Hi there, and welcome to today's YouTube jazz guitar video lesson. In this lesson I'd like to teach you how to play the jazz blues. Now if you come into this lesson, I'm assuming that you already know how to play a regular blues, like a 1-4-5 Chicago blues, in which you only have 4 chords. So if we were like in the key of B flat, you'd have a B flat as chord 1, an E flat as chord 4, and then an F as chord 5, that kind of thing. If you don't know that yet, make sure you get up to scratch on that, and then come and check out this lesson on how to play jazz blues, because basically in this lesson we're going to be taking that 1-4-5 form and adding more chords to it to make it a jazz blues. So if you want to get the tab and notation for this lesson, if you look below this video, you'll see a link to an article on the website which is all about jazz blues chord substitutions. Now we're not going to be looking at all of these in one video because there's a lot of stuff in that article, okay? But we're going to be looking round up until about where it says jazz blues chord substitutions using tritone subs. So really anything below that, that's what we're going to be looking at. But when we get to that, we're probably going to stop this lesson and save all that more advanced stuff for another day. But today is just going to be on how to play the basic jazz blues form. So this will be the kind of form that jazz musicians will play when you go to a jam session. So if you know this form, then you can sit in, play some blues, and it's always a good safe bet to get up and play as a jazz blues. So what you just heard me playing there was the jazz blues. I was just playing the chords to that using pretty much Charleston rhythm throughout the entire thing. So as you can hear, it's still got that same kind of blues quality to it. It's still 12 bars. A lot of things are the same, but a few things are different. Things that are the same, well, we have a movement to the 4 chord in bar 5. And we kind of go to the 5 chord there near the end, but we'll just add a few things to make it a little bit more jazzy. So let's start from the beginning. So we start with a 1 chord, a B flat 7 chord, and then in a jazz blues we pretty much always have a quick change, and a quick change just means that we have 1 bar of the 1 chord, then 1 bar of the 4 chord, then we go back to the 1 chord again. So that's the first change that you always have there, a quick change in bar 2. At the end of the first set of 4 bars in bar 4, in the jazz blues you always get a 2-5 into the 4 chord. So if you don't know what a 2-5 is, if you know an E flat scale, like an E flat Mixolydian scale, you can work out what a 2-5 is, because a 2-5 in E flat just means you get this scale and you count up 2 notes to get the 2 chord, which in the key of E flat is an F minor 7, and then the 5 chord you count up 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is a B flat 7 chord, okay? And the extensions that we usually use, or the chord types rather, that on the 2 chord it's always a minor 7 chord really, and then on the 5 chord it's a dominant 7. So there's various ways in which you can play this 2-5 movement, and you'll find out more of these as you learn to play different jazz blues themes. So that's the big thing that we have that's not in a regular blues. So far we've got a 1 chord, then a 4 chord, 1 chord again, then a 2/5 into E flat 7 there, and that'll take us to bar 5. The next set of 4 bars brings us to the 4 chord, which in the key of B flat is E flat 7. So like a regular 12 bar blues, we do have 1 bar of the 4 chord in bar 5, just an E flat 7 or an E flat 9 or whatever kind of dominant 7 you want to play. But in bar 6 we have a diminished 7 chord, which is always a half step above the root of the dominant 7 chord. So if the dominant 7 chord in bar 5 is an E flat 7, we just go a half step above that, which is E, and then form the diminished chord around it like that. Now don't worry about playing loads of diminished arpeggios and scales over this diminished 7 chord. You can do if you want to, but the thing about this is that an E flat 7 chord and an E diminished 7 chord both contain the same guide tones. Okay, they both contain a G and a D flat, so you can actually play the same thing over both chords. You don't have to worry about outlining them in a different way unless you really want to. So after this diminished chord we go back to good old B flat 7, which would be bar 7 of the progression, just like what we would do in a regular Chicago blues. Okay, so then we have something interesting. We have a minor 2/5 in bar 8 of the progression, which is a 2 minor 7 chord, and then usually something like a G, or sorry, a 5 dominant 7 flat 9 chord, 2 minor 7 flat 5, then a dominant 7 flat 13 or flat 9, an altered dominant 7. And what this is doing is it's setting up the C minor in bar 9 of the progression. Okay, so a minor 2/5, which is just like a normal 2/5, which I've explained earlier, except that the extension has changed. So instead of having D minor 7 to a G7, you just make the you just find the 5th loweret that brings you to a D minor 7 flat 5, and instead of having a regular G7, you can do, but you tend to do things like raise the 5th, raise the root to get a flat 9, just because it has a better or a stronger resolution to the 1 minor 7 chord. You know, as soon as you hear that dominant 7 flat 9, it really wants to go to a 1 chord straight away. So that's what you have there, minor 2/5 into C minor 7. Okay, so at this point it brings us to the last set of 4 bars of the jazz blues progression. So we have a C minor 7, and then it goes to the F7, which we usually get in a regular 1/4/5 blues. You know, we have the 1 chord, 4, and then 5. So it is kind of the same thing there, but instead of just having, we have a C minor 7 first, and then an F7, and that brings us to a 2/5/1 progression. Yet again, another 2/5/1 progression. Okay, but this time it's what you would call a long 2/5 progression. So far, like at the end of the first line in bar 4, we have a short 2/5, meaning that the 2/5 happens in 1 bar. Same that minor 2/5 that we just looked at, it happens in 1 bar. But this time the 2/5, C minor 7 and F7, 2/5 in the key of B flat, they've got 1 bar of each chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4, F7, and then that brings us to the 1 chord, which is B flat 7. So it's essentially doing the same thing, this harmony. It's just a bit more of a jazzy way of getting to it. And this brings us to the last 2 bars of the progression, in which we have something called a 1-6-2-5, which is a really, this is a super common progression in jazz music, a 1-6-2-5. And again, if you don't know what this is, you can find it doing the same thing. You know, you can think, okay, there's my B flat Mixolydian scale. I go 1, B flat, count up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is G. And then we can count up 2, C minor, and then 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then that's F7. So 1, 6, 2, 5. The interesting thing about this progression, this 1, 6, 2, 5, is that basically these chords can be different chord types. So it can be a B flat 7, the G7 can sometimes be a G minor 7, the C minor 7 can sometimes be a C7, and the F7, well, that's just an F7 anyway, isn't it? But it's a subtle difference. You know, if you play more of those dominant 7 chords, it sounds like this. Where if you play some as minor chords, there's a little bit of difference there. So you can use which one you want really, and it doesn't really make too much of a big difference most of the time. I tend to like keeping them all as dominants just because it sticks so well with the blues and what it is. You know, it's a music that's usually based off dominant 7 chords. So there you have it. That's how you play the chords to the to a jazz blues progression. So now you know what the jazz blues progression is. I suggest that you play it a couple of times just to get your fingers used to playing all these different chords. It probably seems like there's a lot of chords if you're used to just playing a 1, 4, 5 blues. So you've got to play it a lot of times so it kind of becomes second nature, and you really need to memorise it. So once you can play it in B flat, the next thing to do is play it in a few different keys. For example, play it in F. And when you're memorising this chord progression, don't think of it in a chord by chord basis. Try to think of it in terms of Roman numerals. So if we were playing like a jazz blues in F, for example, well, we're going to start on the 1 chord. Then we're going to go to the 4 chord. 4 chord in the key of F is B flat. There are a quick change that we discussed earlier. Then we're going back to the 1 chord. Then we've got a 2, 5 in B flat. So 2, 5 in B flat, C minor 7, F7. And then at this point we're in bar 5. In bar 6 we've got that passed and diminished chord. Then we're back to the 1 chord, F7, and then we have the minor 2, 5 in G minor, which is A half diminished, then to a D7 or a D7 flat 9 to the G minor 7 or G minor 9. And then we have the 5 chord of F, and then we have that 1, 6, 2, 5. Which brings us to the top of the progression again. So that's how you want to think of things like that in Roman numerals. Don't worry if it takes you a while to think about what they are straight away. I don't care if it takes you 15 minutes to work out, you know, what these Roman numerals are in, say, E flat. Because every time you do it, it'll get faster. The main thing is that you get them right, and you can get them right just by using and counting up from the scale shapes that I showed you earlier. So I hope this lesson, I hope that you find it useful, and you can play jazz blues after watching it. I'll probably be posting a few more lessons that explain how to solo over this jazz blues form that we've got so far, and ultimately some more lessons about how to make it even more advanced and to make it into a bebop bird blues style progression. So if you did enjoy this lesson, please give this video a like and subscribe to this channel for more free future jazz and blues guitar lessons. So thanks again for checking out this video lesson, and I hope to see you next time.